The heat was a fist pressing hard against my skull. 78 people, maybe more, packed into my parents' backyard, and the temperature felt like 98, humid, thick, smelling of lighter fluid and Aunt Carol's aggressive lavender and cedar bug spray. It was the annual 4th of July BBQ, a tradition I hated, mainly because it meant being trapped within earshot of my cousin Chloe. I stood by the chipped concrete steps that led up to the kitchen door, clutching a clear plastic cup of what was supposed to be sweet iced tea. The condensation made my hand sticky. My sundress, a pale yellow thing I bought specifically to look casual and approachable, was already sticking to the back of my knees. I could feel the thin film of sweat forming along my hairline, turning my carefully applied curls into damp strings. The noise was a solid wall. Kids were screaming, fighting over a plastic baseball bat near the old oak tree. Uncle Jerry, already 3 beers past jovial, was trying to teach my mother how to use the charcoal chimney, which was currently smoking like a failed bomb. The music, classic rock turned up too loud, was playing Styx, the worst kind of nostalgic torture. I watched the action from my small, shaded corner. I wanted to be invisible. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me, just until Labor Day. Marcus, my boyfriend of 4 months, was sitting 3 feet away on a wobbly plastic folding chair. He didn't blend in. Everyone else was wearing patriotic t-shirts or shorts that were probably too tight. Marcus was wearing dark gray trousers and a light blue collared shirt. He looked like he was attending a deposition on a casual Friday, not a family gathering where someone might accidentally hit you with a stray water balloon. He was quiet, always quiet. That's one of the things I liked about him. He didn't need to fill the air with noise, unlike the rest of my family. He was a prosecutor, sharp, observant, the kind of person who noticed if a comma was missing. He was sipping a bottle of imported sparkling water, the bottle still sweating in his hand. He hadn't said much since we arrived, just watching, processing the sheer loud chaos of the Miller clan. My eyes snagged on Chloe across the lawn. She was laughing, that high, forced giggle that sounded like broken glass. She was talking to her 2 perpetually giggling friends, Brenda and Jess, both wearing aggressively trendy crop tops and shorts that were practically underwear. Chloe, always trying too hard, was wearing a white dress that seemed far too expensive for a backyard covered in discarded hot dog wrappers and cigarette butts. I hated her. It wasn't a strong, active hatred, just a dull, grinding resentment built up over 28 years of competitive birthday parties, passive-aggressive comments about my weight in high school, and the constant need she had to be the center of attention. When I introduced her to Marcus last week, she had fluttered her eyelashes and asked him what kind of real crime he dealt with, implying that my life was too boring to be worth prosecuting. I took a long, tired sip of my iced tea. It was thin and watery, mostly melted ice, but it was cold. A small relief. I had left the pitcher on the white plastic table near the grill, the one designated for non-alcoholic drinks, mostly because I didn't trust anyone to leave the vodka out of the lemonade. Chloe glanced over, her eyes meeting mine for a split second. Her smile froze, then widened into something predatory. She whispered something to Brenda and Jess, covering her mouth with one hand, but her eyes never left me. Brenda laughed, a quick, sharp bark. They started walking toward the drink table. My stomach twisted. I knew that look. It was the look she got right before she decided to prank someone, which usually meant humiliating them in front of the largest possible audience. Last year, she swapped the labels on the sweet and unsweetened tea, knowing Aunt Martha had serious blood sugar issues. Not funny, just mean. I watched them approach the table, pretending to be absorbed in the slow, rhythmic chew of my ice. Chloe reached the table, pretending to adjust the stack of paper plates. Brenda and Jess stood slightly behind her, giggling into their hands like mean girls in a terrible 80s movie. Chloe leaned in, her back mostly to me. But I was watching. I was always watching her. I saw the movement of her shoulder. Too sharp, too quick. She wasn't just straightening plates. She reached into the deep pocket of her trendy white dress. She pulled out a small, amber-colored travel bottle, not much bigger than a cough syrup sample. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move. I couldn't move. The iced tea pitcher was sweating profusely, the lid sitting slightly askew. In one smooth, practiced motion, Chloe popped the lid off the small bottle, held it low behind the pitcher, and tipped it directly into the tea. It was so fast, so deliberate. A small, clear stream of liquid poured out. It didn't splash. It just vanished into the dark brown tea. She capped the bottle, slipped it back into her pocket, and then slowly, exaggeratedly, she adjusted the paper plates. She turned, caught my eye again, and gave me the fakest, sweetest, most triumphant smile I had ever seen. Brenda and Jess erupted into silent, shaking laughter. They were trying to stifle it, pressing their hands hard over their mouths, their shoulders jumping. They knew exactly what she had just done. I felt a cold wave wash over me, completely unrelated to the heat. It wasn't fear, not yet. It was pure, distilled disbelief. She actually did it. She spiked the communal drink, the one she knew I was drinking exclusively, just because she thought it would be a prank. I looked from Chloe's smug face back to Marcus. Marcus hadn't flinched. He was still sitting there, silent, his body language relaxed. He was watching the interaction, but he wasn't looking at Chloe. He was looking slightly past her, toward the pitcher. Then I noticed his hand. It was resting on his knee, the sparkling water bottle abandoned on the ground beside his chair. His other hand was holding his phone, not up to his ear, not texting. It was held low, almost resting against his thigh, but angled perfectly. The camera lens was pointed directly at the drink table. The small dark screen was glowing faintly. I couldn't tell if it was recording, but he was watching the screen, not the actual people. He was watching the frame. My mind went blank for a second. Did he see that? Of course he saw that. Marcus sees everything. He's trained to see the tells, the microaggressions, the things people try to hide. He was a prosecutor. His job was to notice when someone was hiding evidence in a pocket. Chloe, satisfied with her performance, turned and strutted away, her friends following, their suppressed laughter finally bursting out into high-pitched giggles as they reached the relative safety of the badminton net. I stood there, holding my cup, the ice inside already melted to a quarter of its original size. The pitcher stood innocently on the table, spiked. What did she use? Vodka? Probably. But the bottle was small, meant for maybe 2 concentrated shots. If she dumped the whole thing into a pitcher of tea, it wouldn't kill me. But it would definitely make me look ridiculous. Slurring my words, stumbling, maybe saying something stupid that the family would mock for the next decade. That was the point of the prank, to make me the sloppy, drunk mess at the family BBQ. I walked slowly toward the table, my legs feeling heavy, like I was moving through wet sand. I needed a refill. I had to prove her wrong. I had to act normal. I reached the table. The pitcher looked exactly the same. Dark brown, sweating. I picked it up, feeling the cold plastic against my palm. Marcus cleared his throat softly behind me. I glanced back. He gave me the smallest shake of his head. It was barely visible, a millimeter of movement, but it was clear. Don't drink that. He stood up, slowly, smoothly, and walked toward me, stopping right beside the table. His voice was low, barely audible over the chaos of the party. I got it all on video, he murmured, his eyes fixed on my face, not the pitcher. Crystal clear, the bottle, the pour, everything. Don't touch that tea. My heart was hammering. I set the pitcher down carefully. What was it? I whispered. I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. He reached past me, casually, and picked up the pitcher by the handle. I'm going to secure this. Go sit down. Act normal. Don't let her know anything changed. I nodded, my throat tight. I walked back to my spot near the steps, my legs unsteady. I sat down on the warm concrete, pretending to watch the kids play. Marcus disappeared into the house with the pitcher. He was gone for maybe 10 minutes. When he came back, his face was calm, but his jaw was set in that hard line I recognized from when he talked about difficult cases. He sat down next to me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. It wasn't just vodka, he said quietly, his eyes scanning the party to make sure no one was listening. I did a quick test. There's something else in there, something that shouldn't be in any drink. I sealed the pitcher in a plastic bag from your mom's kitchen. Chain of custody starts now. I felt the blood drain from my face. What do you mean, something else? I mean, she didn't just want you drunk, Leah. She wanted you incapacitated. That's not a prank. That's assault. The word hung in the humid air between us. Assault. My cousin. At a family barbecue. Over iced tea. What do we do? I asked, my voice cracking. Marcus looked at me, and for the first time since we'd arrived, his expression softened. He reached over and took my hand, squeezing it gently. We do whatever you want to do. This is your family, your call. But I want you to know, what I recorded is enough. If you want to press charges, we have evidence. If you want to confront her privately, we can do that. If you want to walk away and never speak to her again, that's valid too. But she doesn't get to do this and pretend it didn't happen. I looked across the lawn at Chloe. She was laughing again, tossing her hair, completely unaware that her entire performance had been documented. She thought she was untouchable. She thought family loyalty would protect her, the way it always had. I want her to know, I said slowly, the words forming as I spoke them. I want everyone to know, right now, today. Marcus nodded. Then let's do it. We stood up together. I smoothed down my sundress, suddenly aware of how sticky and uncomfortable I felt. But underneath the discomfort, something else was building. A cold, clean anger that felt like armor. We walked across the lawn toward the main cluster of family members gathered near the grill. My dad was flipping burgers. My mom was refilling chip bowls. Aunt Carol was complaining about the neighbor's dog. Normal, mundane, oblivious. Hey, everyone! I called out, my voice carrying over the music and the chatter. Can I have your attention for a second? The noise died down slowly. Faces turned toward me, curious, confused, mildly annoyed at the interruption. Chloe was standing near the dessert table now, a paper plate of watermelon in her hand. She looked up, her expression shifting from bored to wary in a split second. I just wanted to make an announcement, I continued, feeling Marcus's steady presence beside me. About the iced tea. Chloe's face went pale. The watermelon plate trembled slightly in her grip. See, I was about to pour myself another glass, but my boyfriend noticed something interesting. I gestured to Marcus. He's a prosecutor, by the way. He notices things. Like when someone pours a foreign substance into a drink pitcher. The silence was absolute now. Even the kids had stopped running. Marcus, do you want to show everyone what you recorded? Marcus held up his phone. The screen was bright in the afternoon sun. He pressed play. The video was damning. Crystal clear, just like he'd said. You could see Chloe approaching the table. You could see her hand go into her pocket. You could see the small amber bottle. You could see the pour, deliberate, calculated, unmistakable. And you could hear Brenda's voice, high and reedy, captured perfectly by the phone's microphone. She'll never know. She's so boring, she needs to lighten up. The video ended. The silence continued. Chloe dropped the watermelon plate. It hit the grass with a wet splat. Her face was the color of old milk. That's not, she stammered, looking around wildly for support. Brenda and Jess had already started backing away, their faces frozen in horror. It was just vodka. It was a joke. It wasn't just vodka, Marcus said, his voice calm and professional. I tested the contents. There's a sedative compound mixed in, the kind that causes memory loss and impaired motor function, the kind that's illegal to administer without consent. My mother gasped. My father set down his spatula, his face darkening. You drugged my daughter? My mom whispered, staring at Chloe like she'd never seen her before. I didn't. It wasn't supposed to. Chloe was crying now, ugly, panicked tears streaking her makeup. It was Brenda's idea. She said it would be funny. I didn't know what was in it. Brenda, who had been trying to slip away unnoticed, froze mid-step. Don't you dare blame me, Chloe. You're the one who poured it. The family erupted. Voices overlapping, accusations flying, decades of suppressed grievances suddenly finding their moment. Aunt Carol was screaming at Chloe's mother. Uncle Jerry was demanding to know where Brenda got the drugs. My grandmother, who had been dozing in a lawn chair, was now wide awake and loudly declaring that she always knew Chloe was bad news. I stood in the middle of the chaos, feeling strangely calm. Marcus's hand found mine again, warm and steady. You okay? He asked quietly. Yeah, I said, and I meant it. Yeah, I think I am. The police arrived 45 minutes later. Someone, I think it was my dad, had called them. Marcus handed over the sealed picture, the video evidence, and a detailed statement of what he'd observed. He was in full prosecutor mode now, methodical and precise, but every few minutes he'd glance over at me, checking in, making sure I was holding up. Chloe was arrested. Not dramatically, not with screaming or fighting. She just stood there, hollow-eyed as the officer read her rights. Brenda was taken in for questioning. Jess had already fled, but Marcus said they'd find her. My family watched in stunned silence as the police car pulled away, Chloe's face visible through the back window, mascara streaked, mouth open in a silent sob. I can't believe it. My mom kept saying over and over, I can't believe she would do that. To family. I didn't have an answer for her. Some people don't see family as protection. They see it as permission. The drive home was quiet. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that seemed almost offensively beautiful after the day we'd had. Marcus drove, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on my knee. Thank you, I said finally, breaking the silence. He glanced over. For what? For paying attention. For recording it. For letting me decide what to do. I paused, searching for the right words. For not taking over. For just being there. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I've seen a lot of cases where people get hurt because no one believed them. Because there was no evidence. Because family closed ranks and pretended nothing happened. He squeezed my knee gently. I wasn't going to let that happen to you. I leaned my head against the cool window glass. The anger was fading now, replaced by something softer. Relief, maybe, or just exhaustion. What happens now? I asked. With Chloe? Depends on what the lab finds in that picture. If it's what I think it is, she's looking at felony charges. Assault with intent to cause bodily harm. Possibly attempted poisoning, depending on the prosecutor. He paused. Which won't be me, obviously. Conflict of interest. Will she go to prison? Maybe. Probably probation for a first offense. But she'll have a record. She'll never be able to pretend this didn't happen. I thought about that. Chloe, who had always been the golden child, the pretty one, the one who got away with everything. Chloe, who had spent 28 years making my life just a little bit worse whenever she could. Chloe, who thought she could drug me at a family barbecue and laugh about it with her friends. She wasn't laughing now. Good, I said quietly. That's good. We got home late. The apartment was cool and dark, a sanctuary after the chaos of the day. I kicked off my sandals and collapsed onto the couch, letting the cushions swallow me. Marcus disappeared into the kitchen. I heard the clink of glasses, the sound of the refrigerator opening and closing. He came back with 2 glasses of water, plain, clear, definitely not spiked. Thought you might want something safe to drink, he said with a small smile. I laughed. A real laugh. The first one all day. Very funny. He sat down next to me, close but not crowding. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, just breathing, just existing in the quiet. My family is going to be a mess after this, I said eventually. Thanksgiving is going to be a nightmare. Christmas is going to be worse. Everyone's going to have an opinion. Everyone's going to take sides. Probably, Marcus agreed. But you didn't create this mess, Leah. Chloe did. You just refused to be a victim. I turned to look at him. His face was tired but calm. The sharp prosecutor edges softened in the dim light of the apartment. You really think so? I know so. He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. You could have stayed quiet. You could have let it go. Blamed yourself. Made excuses for her. That's what she was counting on. That's what people like her always count on. The silence of the people they hurt. I thought about all the years of small cruelties. The comments about my weight. The jokes that were never funny. The way she always managed to make me feel small, invisible, less than. I had swallowed all of it, year after year, because that's what family did. You tolerated, you forgave, you moved on. Not anymore. I'm done being quiet, I said. Marcus smiled, a real smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. I know. That's one of the things I love about you. I blinked. It was the first time either of us had used that word. Love? I repeated, my heart suddenly beating faster. He didn't flinch, didn't backtrack. Yeah, love. Is that okay? I leaned over and kissed him, soft and slow. When I pulled back, I was smiling too. Yeah, I said. That's okay. We sat there together, tangled up on the couch, as the last light of the day faded outside the window. The family barbecue was over. Chloe was in custody. The pitcher of poisoned tea was evidence in a criminal case. And I was finally, completely free. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. It was the sound of a war finally ending, of a weight finally lifted, of a future finally mine to shape. I closed my eyes and let myself rest. Tomorrow there would be phone calls, accusations, drama. The whole family would have opinions, and most of them would be loud. But tonight, I was safe. I was believed. I was loved. And Chloe? Chloe was learning that actions have consequences, even for golden children, even at family barbecues, even when you think no one is watching. Someone is always watching. Sometimes that someone is a prosecutor with his phone out, and sometimes justice tastes sweeter than iced tea ever could.